you're a hand tool woodworker, enthusiastic about it, you love everything about it, but you come to the point where you have to start running grooves and there's a real temptation to run to some kind of power router because you've never understood this plough plane, it never quite worked for you. Let's walk through some of the idiosyncrasies that make this work, because it's a very powerful tool. Once you understand it, you'll be able to work with it. And I want to take you through what I've learned over the years. What you have is a multi-bladed tool. You can buy packets of blades or you can buy them individually. So in this case, this is a record 044. It could be the 043, which doesn't have the micro adjustment, but it works just as well as this one, just differently. You could have a wooden one, it could be a vintage one, but they all work principally the same. The first thing you have to understand is when you're loading these blades, it's not always easy to sharpen such a narrow blade, so I recommend that you use a honing guide of some kind. This one, this top section, this top platter here, plateau, takes the wide plane blades, but the lower one will take your plough plane iron in between those two. So that's what we're going to look at first, is to sharpen them. There's a certain way I have. On the side of this, it gives you the details of what the distances are to get the exact angles. So what I suggest you do is mark them on your bench top or some other place that you have access to, and then you can allow the blade to pass through. So I want a 30-degree bevel, which just happens to be 30 millimeters from the very cutting edge to this inside edge of the holder, the honing guide. Make sure it's good and tight and cinch it tight, because you're going to be applying a lot of pressure to this very narrow band of steel. This gives me the exact 30 degrees that I want. I don't really want a varying degree, I want it fixed. It's very different than other tools like chisels and regular bench planes, because it's so narrow and it's not used as frequently, so we can maintain this bevel at exactly that 30 degrees, hone it, polish it out at 30 degrees. I usually don't strop the cutting edge either. I just go straight onto my stone. Make sure I've got down to the cutting edge. So there's my initial bevel, my initial polishing level, that's the coarse level. Then I go on to the mid one, 600 grit possibly, anywhere around there. And then I go on the final one, the 1200 grit, and that is sufficient to get a good cutting edge. You don't have to go any further than that with a plough plane. The blade is so narrow. There it is, polished out, and I can feel the burr on the other side. So let's take this out of the honing guide. And this is a new blade, it's never been used, so the only thing I have to do now is polish this face out here, like that. Make sure I've got all the way up to the cutting edge, a little bit more to go here now. And that's it. So I've got the shine all the way across, right up to the tip. I'm happy that that's ready. There's still a slight burr on this side. You could use the strop if you want to, but that wouldn't be so much to polish, but more just to break the burr on that cutting edge. That's that done. Now the other aspect of this we've got to look at is, what I'm going to do is just take my vernier here, and I'm going to look at this side. So I'm putting the very points of my vernier on this side here, and I've got 9.54. If I flip over on this side, I've got 9.66. So it's just marginally narrower on the underside. This is what we call the relief edge. That means that this is trapezoidal. It means that we have wider on the top, narrower on the underside, which means when it passes into the wood, it's able to cut not just on the very cutting edge, but also on the sides of the blade too. It gives it that relief, and it helps it to enter the wood and travel down into the groove as it cuts the walls to the ploughed groove itself. So there it is, it's ready. We're going to load this into here. There are minor elements to this. This is very self-explanatory some way, this particular tool. So I unload this. This little knurled piece here is putting pressure on the side of the blade and making sure it locates in the plane exactly, precisely to a wall on the inside. That means that, let me get a pencil. That means that the blade here, right at the tip, is slightly past the face of the side of the plough skate here. So it's slightly past the sole, because otherwise, if it didn't do that, it wouldn't plough. So it has to be slightly past. This is the shoe. This guarantees the depth of the groove. This is the fence. This whole part is called the fence. That guarantees parallel cut all the way along the length of a piece of wood. So we'll adjust that slightly. This knurled locking piece here, this is the retainer, this is the blade retainer. We turn this until it's cinched tight. This cantilevers here, and it puts pressure right behind the lower part of the blade and keeps it from flexing and causing chatter. So let's see what we can do with this now. So this I don't know where I want my groove. This is arbitrary for this particular demonstration, but just adjust it to wherever you feel like it's centered in the piece of wood. Lock these two off, and then you want the depth. I'm going down 1/4 of an inch, so that's the depth, the distance from the very tip of the cutting edge to the underside of the shoe. But I have to, can you see the blade? The blade right here is about 1/8 of an inch above the sole, but you have these little notches in the back of here. And once they locate in those notches, you have the ability to make all the adjustment you want. So now my blade is about 2 or 3 millimeters from the sole. So I can turn this little screw in the back of here till the blade is protruding just past the sole. It's quite a bit past now. Cinch everything down, make sure everything is locked off. All the knurl parts are locked here. And now I'm going to have a look. The blade is protruding past about 1 millimeter, which I think is too much. So I can slacken off here, take a revolution on this till it bites, and then turn it a turn, lock it off again, and then I can offer it to the piece of wood. But watch how I start. Generally, you think you start back here and push into the wood. The problem with that is you're actually putting the blade right underneath the sides of the wood. What we do is we start at the nose and we push forward and we move back with each stroke like this. Keep going down, then move back, elongate the stroke. Keep moving back. And now we should have a crisp edge on top of both sides of that recess. But the advantage of moving back is we only have short shavings right at the start. If we start here, that shaving is very long, and often that shaving will go underneath and get wedged inside the plane. So we start with the short strokes until we've got down. And then we work backwards, go all the way down until that shoe on the side, on your side, hits the surface of the wood, as it is just about doing now. There it's hit, so it's taking no more off. And that's it. That's how we use the plough plane. very simple, very quick, very effective. Different sized blades will give you different sized grooves. You can go up to about 5/8, half an inch to 5/8 of an inch would usually be the widest, but that's mostly wide enough for everything we do.